Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show. And it is really good to be back. I have been a grease monkey for 2 weeks, except for gigging on the weekends. So it's nice to get back to something DJ related. It's actually refreshing, and it's a lot easier than being a grease monkey in the garage. But I've been having fun. We are here tonight with, of course, we have Pastor Jay, Brandon. Always has wise words for us.
Try.
He tries. And we have Eric from New Hampshire.
Hello.
If your hamster dies, you go there and get a new hamster.
Yes.
Yes. that's how you. That's what I always thought it was. Anyway, let's go get a new hamster.
Yeah.
We have Georgia Matt, which is what I call him. Is it Ames, actually? I'm sorry. Is it Ames?
It is. It's Ames. A good northern name.
Georgia Matt better. Yeah. and last but not least, our friend, our rock, our road dog,
pillar of the community. I am.
Yeah,
Austin John.
Top.
You are
Austin John.
And let's go ahead, since I really don't have a topic for tonight's show. I was going to talk about something, but I don't talk about that. Let's just wing it tonight. We'll talk about what we're going to talk about. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Boston John's Record Roundup.
Yeah.
That's where the speaker would be doing its thing there.
Yeah, that's a Marvin Gaye song. We got to stop it.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ed Sheeran won, so we might be okay.
Boston John will kill it. It
might not be so.
Boston John's got this.
You know, we won't be as lucky as Robin Thicke. You know, but I'd rather come out like Ed Sheeran did.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a band. I think we've mentioned the greatest hits before, but I wanted to show you a find that I came up with. Okay. There was a time I was doing merchandising for Best Buy for a company, Anderson Merchandising, and we set their DVDs and their media, and they called it the infield. Okay. And they got on board with this. I think it was probably one of the first record days that was happening. Yeah. So they ordered a lot of these box sets, like these collector's edition box sets, and they were a big hit, big sellers, and they're vinyl. So I do have something here that I found. Okay. This is it's more about a band. As I say, we have talked about the greatest hits. This box set that came through was Queen featuring Paul Rogers. Okay, so this is post Freddie, right? For what the draw is. They released a record called The Cosmos Rocks. They gave you a whole bunch of new material and a DVD, which was a live concert video where you actually got to see Queen play some Bad Company tunes. They played All Right Now from Free. They played Can't Get Enough of Your Love. But I just wanted to go through. So the thing, when it first came in, the whole deal was the thing was like $200 because of what you got on it. And it sat and it sat and it sat. There were 3 of them, and this was the last one. And eventually it came around to the point where we were going to have to send them back. And they said, well, let's just blow them out. So I got this whole box set for 99 cents. Like thrift shopping, right? This is kind of like Malcolm West style, right? I'm like $1. I'll buy that for $1. So let me just give you the quick run through here. So you got the gatefold double album set of Queen. Wow. Which is the new record. So that's 2 records, and it's all new material. Didn't really go anywhere, but the whole purpose of getting it was because they reissued on heavy duty vinyl original masters of Queen 2 is in here. A Day at the Races is in here. Oh my goodness. A Night at the Opera is in here. Oh boy. Is it going to be Brave New World? And Sheer Heart Attack.
I was going to say Sheer Heart Attack's in there. That's the ultimate setup.
That's, it's everything pre the game, 1980, where then it was that, and then Greatest Hits and Hot Space. But to talk about a Queen as a band, we have, of course, just legendary for the viewers that maybe aren't familiar as to what they brought to the table and how they took glam in the 70s and made it mainstream, and they were radio staples with, You're My Best Friend and Bicycle Race and Bohemian Rhapsody, of course. So the reason for including it's more or less a throwback to show Freddie some love, but it's also that the band, continued on, and now in their new iteration with Adam Lambert playing, Queen's still touring. and they're still, commercially viable. People are, those are big money tickets to go see.
Absolutely.
I can remember them growing up. They were always around. I mean, they started, I think, in 73, 74. I was probably 4 or 5. They've always been on the radio. They always had traction, and it's all ages friendly, most of their stuff.
Right.
I think they're up to either their 4th or 5th greatest hits record at this point, because the hits just keep on coming, and they, really haven't released anything since the passing of Freddie on the Freddie side since 91. I think he left us.
Yes, it was like November or December 91, something like that.
Yeah. Yep. As to mention them, just to say what they did and the doors that they opened, as far as, bands of the glam, you've got the David Bowies came up from this, Sweet came up from this kind of sound. Even trace it as far back as like Girl into like Def Leppard into like the whole original British Invasion. It's definitely a band worth checking out. And granted, some of their old stuff was a tad strange. I can't say I've dropped, Battle of the Ogres at any gigs recently, but there are some hits. I mean, there's some bangers. Check the band out if you're not familiar with Queen, except for the hits. Pick a record, do a deep dive, and listen to some of the older cuts. They say I was just thrilled that these came through, and they were all original pressings, and they're all on like that 180 gram vinyl. And that'll be my pick of the week. That's just to show them a little more love than they're not just a greatest hits band. They have a pretty deep catalog, and there's a lot of good material there.
I know Pastor Jay has that incredibly good look with "Don't Stop Me Now."
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I mean that's in heavy rotation at weddings, and it kills. And it really, really does. I mean, there was a period where you could play Bohemian Rhapsody kind of after the movie, after their stage show. And, it did well, but Don't Stop Me Now has taken on a whole new life of its own. And I mean, I remember when the Celtics were in the playoffs, you couldn't go a day without hearing Queen, We Are the Champions.
Right.
I mean, We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. That became just something you heard like every day. But for me, it started with Killer Queen. I think that was the first time I ever heard Queen. And it was just like, this sounds different. And you can credit Roy Thomas Baker with his production style and his ability to layer, and I think they're a great example of a very intelligent band. Like, they were smart about their decisions. They didn't make bad choices as far as putting out crappy music. Metallica has covered them. A ton of bands have covered them, and if you want to know what Queen was, I think the best 10 minutes of your life could be spent watching Freddie Mercury with Queen at the
Live Aid special
or Live Aid. And let me tell you, during Radio Gaga, he absolutely has, I don't know how many people Wembley fits, 80,000, 100,000.
About a 20-minute segment.
And it's just the most incredible work of a showman on stage.
Yeah,
by the way, I saw the Paul Rogers tour. I saw him when they came to San Diego on that. And it was good because you heard the guitar, which is so pivotal of Queen, with Brian May. And you heard Roger Taylor sing a couple tracks. You heard Brian May sing a couple tracks. And I'm a huge Paul Rogers fan. But do I think it was the best fit in music? No. But people were so excited. I mean, it was sold out in San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
18,000 seats. And everyone flipped out over every song. Did Paul Rogers kill it on every track? You know what? He did the one thing he should have done. He sang them like Paul Rogers. He didn't try to be Freddie Mercury at all. Because he doesn't have that range.
The closest I ever heard to somebody doing it justice was when George Michael did Somebody to Love. That was
at the Freddie tribute. Yeah, that was
for a non-Queen guy. There's a guy, Mark something, who sang in, I think, the Broadway show or the English show, who auditioned on YouTube by doing Somebody to Love. And it's him in his bedroom just singing.
Right.
And he does Freddie Mercury note for note flawlessly. I can't remember his first name is Mark, I believe. I can't remember his last name, But if you look up like Queen singer Mark, Somebody to Love, it's a many millions viewed video, and his voice is perfect. But he's doing it as a tribute. He's doing it as a copy, and he does it exceptionally well. Paul Rodgers sang like Paul Rodgers and Bad Company and Free.
Yep.
But he was doing songs that needed about 7 more octaves above his voice.
Yeah, Freddie made it complicated a little bit. Yeah.
It didn't work. By the way, I'm getting a call from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for that money, 99 cents. I mean,
well, I think now it's going for like $250 or something. It's a multi CD, LP, DVD,
crazy
box set now. Just like I can't pass that.
No,
gotta have that because they had all the big ones. Like they had the Zeppelin box set and the Who box set, and I was just like, and they did sell a bunch of them, but I think most people said, "Oh, it's all the new stuff isn't Freddie." It's and maybe that was why it didn't have the poll.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's a neat piece. That's a beautiful piece, though. I'm trying to think. Jay mentioned Killer Queen, but I think the first Queen song I remember hearing is "You're My Best Friend." I think that's the first one I can recall. Oh, that's Queen. I don't know if I heard Killer Queen after it or before it. Now that
Best Friend I would always play because it's only like 2 minutes 39. Like even if it doesn't go over, it's done before you can change it. It was kind of like that's the safe one.
Well, in the old days, Another One Bites the Dust was a DJ staple, and then I started playing Crazy Little Thing Called Love, which I still do sometimes. It's kind of a cool, 50s rockabilly crossover track that you can go from that old stuff to the 80s pretty nicely if you're trying to do genres like that. But yeah, fantastic.
That's a big. I think most of us have that in our DJ tools of music.
Yes.
I remember hearing it on the radio, and the thing was, and this is a Boston thing, they played up the reference to Kennedy in Killer Queen.
Yeah.
And if you just listen to the silk delivery of his voice on it, and same thing with Best Friend. And interesting fact for what it's worth, Best Friend was written by John Deacon. It was written about his wife. So he wrote the lyrics. That's not a Freddie track. That's a John Deacon. And John Deacon also wrote Another One Bites the Dust. Hence why he's in retirement with his millions in the bank going, guys, I wrote the 2 biggest songs almost. I really don't need to be on tour.
I don't have to work anymore.
I got the publishing.
Yep.
I mean, if you believe the movie, I don't think they acted like they liked that song. In the movie, they acted like they were dismissing that track, but it was a really good track.
I mean, how many times have we read or heard a band or an artist say, the album was done. They wanted one more song. I spent 7 seconds and I wrote the biggest hit of my life.
Yeah.
I can't stand this one song. I wasn't going to put it out. And this little girl heard it and said, you should do this. And it's some biggest hit of my life. It's the big hits. I don't think they're as calculated as some people think they are. I think there is that level of, I don't know, this isn't doing it for me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's your track.
Yeah. Well, I think Bites the Dust had to be funky because it was 80, right? 1980. And they were going up against a wall of disco that was, just ran the airwaves. They needed something that had kind of a groove. And, for a rock band to, have something that was so bass driven, that's how it got on, airplay beside Chic and Village People. And it had legs.
Staple.
Yeah.
It was an absolute, like the old, the originators of what we do, the DJs. That was a staple for them. It turns up in Adventures of the Wheels of Steel by Grandmaster Flash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a classic.
No, absolutely, it is. Yeah. Now they're a great group. You can spend a lot of time getting lost in their catalog. They've got some just really big songs. Show Must Go On, things like that are just big tracks.
Well, what I want to
look at it and go, how'd 4 guys do this?
What I want to know, Jay, is how are you going to top a Queen box set?
Well, you know what? I don't think I am going to top it. I'm going to go in an entirely different direction with a band that,
Saga,
according to Wikipedia, is considered an industrial disco band.
Saga.
Saga?
I don't know. I heard On the Loose this week on like classic vinyl on XM, and I thought of you. I can just see Jay driving around with the Z Cavariccis.
That is
in his Thunderbird, cranking up
half leather gloves.
Yeah.
That was that period.
Yeah, and they, in retrospect, God, they sound Canadian. Holy crap! But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. But I've always described this group as B-movie, industrial, kind of funny, gothy, but very sex-driven music.
Okay.
So
I'm curious.
It would make sense that the album I'm choosing is one called Sexplosion by a band that hopefully I will be seeing next month in San Diego. Ooh. Again, I've seen them like 4 or 5 times. I really like them. I'm not anticipating much because, I'm getting old, which means they're getting older.
Yeah.
But the band, of course, is My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. And this is the album that had probably their biggest track that they're best known for, which is Sex on Wheels, which was featured in the movie Cool World, but has also gone through some other iterations. But
that's a very different mix in Cool World, though, than what's on the album.
No, it is. It is.
I think, what do they call it? The Glamour Dyke remix on Cool World?
Glamour Dyke is in Cool World, yeah. This has just got the regular version on it. Yeah. I mean, the 3 banger tracks, the big 3 banger tracks are Martini Built for Two, Sexplosion, and Sex on Wheels. We can't, of course, forget Leather Sex, the International Sin Set, Princess of the Queens. It's kind of tongue in cheek. If you think of those Russ Meyers, like, what is it? Kill, Kill, Faster, Pussycat, like those kind of movies. This is the music you would expect to hear.
Well, if they were made in the late 80s, early 90s, yeah.
It's a car movie with Kurt Russell or something like Grindhouse stuff. It's kind of like
you turn it into a very Quentin Tarantino.
It's a little-ish. Yeah, it's sort of in the Grindhouse vein and a little Quentin-ish. Quentin's never used them.
Well, no, I'm just saying, if you would put Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill, Kill to My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult soundtrack, it would feel very Tarantino to me to do that.
Oh, no, yeah, I could see that. I mean, and these are a good example of that period, but yet they didn't really sound like everything else. They're a Wax Trax out of Chicago group. And Wax Trax is probably famous for another act that I've seen them with, which is Ministry and Front 242. I know this band is not a Wax Trax group, but I always include them, and that is Lords of Acid, because I've seen Lords of Acid with Ministry and My Life with Thrill Kill.
Yeah.
And it was just, at the end of the night, your head is spinning because it's very sexual innuendo. It's very leather. It's very dominatrixy. It's
a lot of that stuff.
But I mean, I enjoy that. I mean, it's fun music to me.
I do too. I mean, that was like the staples on the at the time they used to call it alternative. You would go to a club and it'd be an alternative night, and that's what you heard.
You heard this stuff.
You heard that. You heard, oh geez, I don't know. You heard things like The Cure, Depeche Mode, New Order, in the Banshees, and
you could slide this in there easily.
But you also heard things like Dead or Alive and dance stuff. It was anything that wasn't top 40 radio in the US. And a lot of it was very top 40 radio in the UK. But yeah, I dig My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult. I think my favorite song from them is actually Cause It's Hot, which is one of their first ones.
That's a really good track. Yeah.
I love that song. That song made such an impression on me when I heard it.
I mean, Rough Sex is a great track off a different album. And they've done a bunch. The funny thing is they were doing, again, not coming like you, Brian, from the club scene as much as a DJ. I was always shocked. Like, I got a Thrill Kill Cult remix CD back in the 90s where they had remixed a bunch of their tracks. And I'm like, wow, they're doing remixes of their own stuff. This is crazy. Because I wasn't of that school.
Sure.
I was on the rock side of it.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. And I was shocked that they were getting other people to do remixes of their stuff, but they weren't making it into dancier tracks.
Mm-hmm.
as much as they were just changing the vibe. You know, they were adding instruments, they were doing this and that. So, I mean, I really enjoy them. I include them in dark wave. I include them in goth. You know, they're not Skinny Puppy. They're not Christian Death. They're not that dark industrial goth scene. But I still think they live in that world enough that you can include them. As
a DJ, I was, you know, back then I was trying to find the 12-inch singles of this stuff because those were the versions that you heard.
Yeah.
So whenever I buy an album from an industrial artist, I was like, really, this version is bad. I remember, you know, buying Nid Sareb, I think it was Showtime, and I'm like, oh, this is no.
Yeah.
So I just had to go find all the singles that I wanted from it because, you know, I think Lightning Man was like really weird on there or something. But yeah, I've got a lot of that stuff. A lot of CD singles too, which were really fun to have.
Yeah. I mean,
because they sounded so good, you know. Even how rotten the turntable was in the club, you still got a great sound out of the CD single. So I've got Meat Beat Manifesto was another one that I really enjoyed. They've got a track called Psych Out, and there's a really good mix of it. If you haven't heard, I'll turn you onto it later. But I think you dig it. I don't know if you know it or not. But
I don't know if I do.
Oh, yeah. Are you familiar with the band?
Nitzareb?
No, Meat Beat Manifesto.
Oh no, yeah. No, this isn't one of the ones you turned me on to, is it?
Psych Out.
Psych Out. Yeah, no, I do know that track.
What it's all about. I think it's a cool song.
Yeah,
and those were the kind of things you were hearing at the club back then.
Right.
That were just like
the 90s were a different period. I mean, I'm even looking over the discography and I realized that they really peaked starting in 90, 91. And by the end of the 90s, they were doing their remix albums. And like when you talk to fans, the albums they talk about are the like Confession of a Knife is 90, Sexplosion is 91, Cooler Than Jesus is 90.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean that stuff was early, but it's still something to kind of look into. I mean, they knew what they were doing, and they've lived up to it. Every time I've seen them, they've tried to maintain it. They've tried to still give you that kind of like Lords of Acid vibe of like, you know, hey, if we weren't here, we'd be in a dominatrix den somewhere. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
it's all, you know, I think Ministry said it best, you know, very, very early on, every day is Halloween. And that was the whole vibe.
Yeah, no, that's their vibe. Yeah.
Of all of this industrial stuff. It's a lot of fun. If you kids have never dove into the whole industrial thing, I encourage it. It's tons of fun.
And if you like the music, check out the movie The Crow, because it's, I think, the only time you'll ever really see My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult, because they're the band in the movie that there's a scene in The Crow where a guy gets thrown out of a window and lands on a stage, and the band playing is My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult. But that's a good example of that world that kind of music lives in.
It's not like hip hop where it's like, you know, very real and very brutal. It's like, it's fantasy.
This is
stuff.
Fantasy.
It's very fantasy.
Absolutely.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And it's Halloween. It's fun stuff.
Yeah. Nobody really gets hurt. There's no swearing.
No. It's just scary movie stuff.
It's scary movie stuff. Yeah. No.
It's ridiculous. But yeah.
It's your dark side. If your dark side, unless your dark side is like AK in it someplace, it's like
the people who took it seriously were the scary ones.
Yeah, exactly. The quiet ones show in the corner with their arms folded.
Get them out of here.
Get them out of here. Yeah, get them out of the club.
Now, don't take her out on a date. She's nuts.
Yeah. This is a good one of those like metrics where you meet somebody like, hey, do you like this group? And they go, I love that group. Okay, I got to call quickly. My pager's going on. Oh,
so who would like to go next? We're going to burn a whole hour on Boston John's Record Roundup.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm not saying we are going to, but we're on that path.
So I have a pretty big one here. This one this is definitely a various artists type project here. 53 artists participating. The genres span heavy metal, pop metal, country, blues rock, hardcore punk, rap metal, and Latin trap, all in one album.
You are from Georgia, aren't you?
It's not Stars.
What did I say?
No. I know what it's not at this point.
It's not We Are the World.
It's not Stars.
I was thinking Stars.
Yeah, We Are Stars.
Jay and John, after your Twitch streams, you might know what I'm referring to here. This came out in 2021. and it was a tribute to the 30th anniversary of a 1991 album by a little band called Metallica, the Black Album. And this was the Metallica Blacklist.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So
The anniversary.
there
record,
are
yeah.
some really eclectic sounds on here, including one of what I understand to be one of Jay's. Is it a new favorite of yours, or just one that you've sort of introduced?
It's a very good version.
Recently?
Yeah, The Warning with
The Warning in general.
Alicia Caro.
Alicia Caro.
Yes.
Alicia Caro.
Yes.
Pop singer.
Yeah, she's a pop, like she does a lot of dance singles and stuff, but she's doing vocals with the band The Warning, which is a girl band out of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3-piece girl band out of Mexico.
3-piece girl band. Are they related? Do we know?
All sisters.
They are all sisters. So this is like,
Oh, wow.
what is that? What's that sisters group? HAIM? HAIM?
Yep, that's another one.
HAIM,
Sounds familiar.
where they're sisters as well. Yeah.
But almost every song on here, every track on here has several different versions by several different artists. So, and the beauty of it is they're not all trying to sing it like Metallica. They're doing their versions of it. So you're getting something different each time you listen to it. And it can really refresh some songs that might be in the Metallica library that, if you're like me, like Enter Sandman, that was always a go-to favorite banger type song. And then, I'm like, I'm kind of tired of it now, but, it gives it new life. So it's definitely worth checking out. And I think it's a worthy tribute to Metallica while being its own thing.
Miley Cyrus does an incredible version of Nothing Else Matters.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's on this album, Matt. Maybe you can help me out. But
I'm
I
looking
know
through right now.
live, Miley Cyrus did it with Metallica, and they did it with another artist who said to the band that he thought this was one of the greatest songs ever written. And that artist would be Mr. Elton John.
Huh.
And on Alex Stern, it was Elton John, Miley Cyrus, and Metallica doing Nothing Else Mattered. Oh, yeah. And like Elton came out and said to James, this is one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life.
Actually, I was getting ready.
He teared up. He was like, oh.
He was like, whoa.
Like, this is Elton John saying he likes my song.
Yeah.
It was
like
I was getting ready. I was getting ready to say that he wasn't on here, but and I'm just showing the track. I'm not going to play it for copyright reasons, but his name might have went by already. But Elton is on that same Miley Cyrus track.
Yeah.
So is Yo-Yo Ma, Robert, and forgive me if I butcher this. Trujillo, and Chad
He's the new
Smith
bass
on
player.
the drums. Yeah.
And Chad
Formerly of
Smith from the
Suicidal
Peppers.
Tendencies. And Chad Smith of Peppers. Yeah.
Who I wish I would have never discovered looks exactly like Will Ferrell, because now I can't watch the Chili Peppers and like get into them and then look over there. Like,
you can't unsee that once you're aware of that.
You've seen the Jimmy Fallon drum off, right?
Yeah, they've done some cool things with that too for charity. They take that on the road too.
With him and Will Ferrell. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, they are. They're both talented for sure in their crafts, and that was good too to see those crossovers.
Eric, what do you got?
Good one.
Well, I don't have nothing in front of me because I didn't know I was going to be on here, but I'm going to go back to 1986, and don't laugh at me. It's Janet Jackson's Control album.
I almost did that one this week.
Did you?
I came this close
Wow,
from doing Control.
No, here's why I like it. 86, I think it was 86, 85, somewhere around there. But this is when there was a lot going on back in the 80s with music. And everybody was kind of fighting for a spot in the charts. And I think with this album, I think she had at least 4 or 5 that went at least top 10. Singles.
Yeah, how many? Yeah. I didn't look at it. I was considering doing it.
Yeah.
I really honestly was considering pulling that out this week.
That's strange.
Because there are so many great songs on that album.
Yeah, now I'm looking up the track list. Let's Wait a While. The Pleasure Principle, which I
hit.
When I Think of You.
Hit.
What Have You Done for Me Lately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nasty's on there too.
and Control, the title of them. I mean, the title.
Yeah, it's 6 tracks. 6 out of how many?
Every one of them at least hit the top 10, you know.
Oh, it was monster. And what was crazy about it was, I mean, at first, I think people thought, oh, Janet Jackson, she's riding on the coattails of her brother. Because if memory serves, he had just released Bad. But who was in charge of that? Who was at the helm of that project? That would have been Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
I was going to say it was those two. Because she followed it with Rhythm Nation, right?
Yes, she did. And that was right around the same time Madonna did the Like a Prayer album. I mean, they were kind of happening at the same
late
time.
80s. Yeah.
And Paula Abdul was also doing Forever Your Girl. So those were huge, like all happening all at once.
Yeah, Janet was on fire with those two.
Oh my God. I mean, talk about coming into your own.
Yeah, totally.
That's one album. You just drop the needle and listen, hit up the hit. It was great. You know,
the story that I heard, and this is just off the memory serving kind of thing. She had some attempts at some music, and it didn't really do anything. And she was young, and I think Joe, the father, was kind of in control of everybody. He, and they had a meeting with Jam and Lewis and said, "Hey, this kid wants to do something, but like, all right, we're going to do this, but this is how we're going to do it. We're going to move her here to Minneapolis. She's going to live here now, and she's going to do her own thing. It's going to have nothing to do with what Michael's doing, what the brothers are doing, what LaToya's doing. This is going to be her own thing. We're going to do it. We're going to separate her from the rest of you, and she's going to come into her own." And they co-wrote Control with her about that, the song Control.
Wow.
Which is kind of neat when you think about it. Listen to it from an autobiographical point of view.
Do you think of her as Michael's younger sister?
No.
What do you think?
She stands on her own.
No, I know. But when she first hit, when artists first get big, you go, oh, that's fill in the blank. Like for me, oh, that's the girl from Good Times. Yeah. I knew she was Michael's younger sister, but I thought of her more as, oh, that's the sister from Good Times. Oh, no way. She can really sing. Like,
I thought the coolest move that she did, and it was a little later on in her career, she was just going by Janet.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was so cool. She's got the Jackson out of it. It's me. It's Janet. It's not.
Well, at
she
the time,
says it in Nasty.
Yeah.
It's Janet.
Miss Jackson, if you please.
Yeah.
If you're nasty, actually.
Yeah.
But
she made it clear she wasn't riding on the coattails. She was going to do it on her own. That
was the whole point. That's what. And it was.
By the way, she's on tour.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's on tour right now.
Yes. Didn't Nick Hahn just go see her?
I think he did. I think you're right. I think he did. And
or he's about to or something.
Yeah, one or the other.
But yeah.
But yeah, I saw an ad the other day. They're like Janet Jackson playing. There's a new arena out here, Brian, towards Palm Springs that one of the casinos has put up.
Oh.
And it's apparently I saw the opening day and it was like, they did like 2 or 3 shows with Maroon 5 and then Imagine Dragons. I mean, they're doing one banger show after another.
Wow.
Like they're getting the biggest artists that
like way out though, huh? Like Palm Desert or something, or
it's right in that area. But what they're doing is they're paying the money to get the artists that would normally go, we'll play San Diego and then we'll play LA at the Forum or something. No, we're going to go to this venue. So they're creating this new infrastructure out there. Like, oh, we got a lot of hotels. You're in Palm Springs, get away for a weekend. And they're getting banger artists.
Nice.
I mean, Janet's not playing San Diego, I don't think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think a lot of these artists are kind of doing the exclusive. Side note, this happened years ago with bands playing casinos out where I live that would normally be playing a small club in San Diego. And the casinos came in and said, what's your guarantee? Our guarantee is 50. We'll give you 150. Really? We'll play your place. Right. So that it changed the makeup of music in Southern California because now casinos were jumping in. Well, not to derail, but look at Vegas. It's always been that way. Adele was announced the other day her new residency is supposed to pay somewhere in the $2 million a show range.
Holy crap.
At Caesar's Palace.
A
Each show.
That's a nice chunk of change, huh?
Million.
Wow.
Her cheapest ticket, I think, is now up to like $500 or $600, and you're in the boondocks.
Is.
But if you're down front, you're in the $10,000 to $20,000 a ticket range. And she's got 17,000 seats there. So
I'll let Jay complain about ticket sales later. I will, because he will.
Don't
There's
get me
nothing we can
started.
do about it. It's going to happen. But let me get my record out while we still have a little bit of show left.
There you
A
go.
little bit. I was so surprised that Eric did Control, because I mean, I really, honestly, I'm not just saying that. I was going to do Control.
That's just strange.
Not the debut album. She had stuff before that.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like Off the Wall wasn't Michael Jackson's debut album, but close enough.
Yeah.
It was the same thing with Janet Jackson. It was the first big debut album. Let's call it that. It was her big debut album. So I was thinking about that whole thing, and this is my choice for this week. Very similar, but worth talking about for a lot of reasons. I don't think we've ever mentioned it in the show. It is not a debut album. It is a sophomore album, and the sophomore albums are weird because they're hit or miss.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Jay said it before, and it's absolutely true. For the freshman album, you have your whole life to collect material for this. And then the sophomore album, it's like, okay, we've got our record contract. We have obligations to fulfill.
Yep.
We
We're on
have to do
tour.
something.
Yeah, we got 3 weeks to write a record.
Yeah, write a record. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you get 6 months. Now
Right.
give us the best you can to top the first.
To top the first.
Good luck.
Yeah. I think that this particular album definitely went ahead and achieved that greatness. And that would be Madonna Like a Virgin.
Okay.
Great
Yeah.
record. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say
Okay.
so.
There are, I had to Google this to look it up on Wikipedia, because as you can see, front and back, it's just this. You know, it's just another really cool picture from Madonna and my favorite Madonna era. You know,
Yeah.
I'm yeah. So 9 tracks on the album, 5 bangers.
Yep.
I was thinking about when I was working at the skating rink, and we would sit down. I've told the story before. I would sit with, even before I was working at the skating rink, but I think I was working at the skating rink at this point. I believe I was. I would sit with Jackie Juris, the co-owner. Her and her husband owned the place, and we would pick out the albums on the Columbia Record and Tape Club that had the most traction. So we wanted to get the albums with the biggest bang for the buck. And
Is this the 11 albums for a penny days?
Yeah, it absolutely was.
Tape on
You're
that
working
penny.
a bang for your buck. You're paying a penny.
No, but let's get a record that we can get 5 solid tracks off of. Let's not mess around with these records that, you know, you get a track or 2 off of. Let's get the big ones. You know, like I was thinking, you know, Wham! Make it big. I mean, you had Careless Whisper, Everything She Wants, and Wake Me Before You Go Go. That's 3 that you can have, you know, you can justify. This had 5. That's pretty darn good. Of course, you know, Michael Jackson, Thriller, of course. Prince, Purple Rain, of course. But there were other things too going on. I mean, Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA was one of them.
Yeah.
You know, it just had song after song after song out of it that was really good.
Yeah.
But this one does too. So she has this debut album that's really good. Really good, with Holiday and Lucky Star and Borderline and Burning Up and Everybody.
Burning Up. Overlooked song.
Lucky Star is like my tune off of that. It used to be Borderline, but it's Lucky Star now. It's so good. And she did that album with her then boyfriend, Jelly Bean Benitez.
Yep.
So she, long story short, without name dropping, she dumps Jelly Bean and she gets Nile Rodgers on this sucker. And if you listen to Nile Rodgers talk about this, they'll ask him, what's the song that you did that you're the most surprised that was successful? And he will tell you it's Madonna's Like a Virgin. So I thought it was nothing. But when I heard that song for the first time, I remember where I was. I was in the city. I was staying at my sister's dorm. And it blew my head off. That was the best damn song. I'd never heard anything like that before. not quite like that with that kind of groove. Oh man, what an amazing song. Another great overlooked song from this album, I feel like it's an overlooked song, is Angel. Angel's beautiful.
You're an Angel's a very pretty song.
Oh my gosh, it's good. Dress You Up, I really, really, really like Dress You Up.
Yeah, Dress You Up.
A good song.
Material Girl's the big one. That's the one that everybody talks about, really. But for my money, out of the 5 big ones off of that album, that's the last in line. Material Girl was the least interesting song for me.
It wasn't my favorite.
Love Don't Live Here Anymore is almost like, it almost feels like, okay, something new's coming. And it did with Live to Tell. That was the vibe.
Great song.
Of that song.
Great song.
I don't know. I just thought it's a very worthwhile album to talk about.
Oh, yeah. You know, I don't want to drop names, but if only you and I knew the first DJ to ever play Madonna in New York City.
Yeah.
Well, she was hiding behind a amp rack with Jelly Bean Benitez on stage.
No, you screwed the story up just like you screw everything else up with it.
Oh.
The story is...
Wasn't he there? I thought they were there.
He was there, but he wasn't in the booth.
Oh, I thought they were high. Or
no, here's the story. Okay, the friend of ours, Joey Blue, has been on the show before.
Yeah,
he was a DJ.
Joey's awesome.
He was a DJ at Studio 54.
And wasn't he a cafeteria too?
He was at Funhouse.
Funhouse.
He was 54 in Funhouse. He was at 54 in the later days, you know.
Yeah.
And he went to school with a guy named John Benitez, Jelly Bean Benitez.
Yep.
And they knew each other, but they weren't like buddy, but they did know each other. And of course, Jelly Bean went on to do a lot of things, including produce Madonna's debut album. So he goes into 54 with the album and his girlfriend, Madonna, and says, hey, this is my girlfriend, Madonna. Here's her new song. And I don't remember what it was, if it was Everybody or Burning Up or what it was. But he gave him the record and said, you can play this. And he said, sure. And Madonna stayed in the booth, and Jelly Bean's like, I'm going to go talk to some people at the bar, do some business. So he does. So Joey introduces the track and plays it and all that. And I guess it goes over incredibly well. I don't remember if it was Holiday or what the hell he played. We have to ask him.
Yeah.
But Madonna stays in the booth. And then I guess there were amp racks in the booth where you could kind of hide.
Oh, I know where I screwed up. Yep, I know.
And Madonna's between the amp racks making out with a busboy.
That was it.
While her boyfriend Jelly Bean's at the bar trying to do business about her album. That's the story.
I knew I screwed that.
That's who she was not making out with Jelly Bean.
Now, here's a side story that nobody knows that I will let you all in on. About 7 or 8 years ago, we were doing an event at DJ Expo. And it was a pioneer-driven event. No, more like 10 years ago. And we had like Rooney G and Scribble and Second Nature and all these DJs playing. And my boss came to me and said, hey, the headliner is Jelly Bean Benitez. I said, no way, really? That's cool. And, you know, first DJ, second DJ, third DJ, Scribble gets up. Where's Jelly Bean? So we get a hold of Jelly Bean, and he's gone back to the city. He's back in New York. He felt the vibe wasn't quite right. So he just left.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was that small issue of, we're really sorry you didn't feel the vibe was right. By the way, we noticed you cashed the check. So I don't know where it ended up, but I think at the time it was like, you know, we paid him. He was going to perform. And he was there for sound. I met him. He was there for sound check. He seemed cool. He seemed happy. But all of a sudden, it's like from the time he sound checked to the time we were looking for him, he had enough time to get a ride and get back to New York City. Because he's like, yeah, I'm already back at my place in the city. We're like, wait, what? And I think we had Second Nature come up. And that's when we came up with the idea, the famous idea, stupid idea, but famous, WKRP style, we decided to have the DJs throw the gear into the audience that they performed on. So we had the DJs disconnect the mixers and go. There's like 500 or 600 people at Casbah, and the DJ's holding it on stage, and I'm standing behind him emceeing, and I'm like, "Go ahead, give it to the crowd." And he puts it up in the air like this, and people started it was a 909 mixer. People started diving towards him. We had a fight break out. Oh, it was the dumbest thing. It was turkey drop on Thanksgiving.
That's responsible.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting thing about Jelly Bean, though, he is still, to my knowledge, unless it's changed like within the last week or so since I've tuned in, but the radio station, Studio 54 Radio and Sirius XM, it's Jelly Bean's station.
Yeah, and he gigs out.
It's not like he's sitting around waiting for something.
No, he got stuff shortly after our gig. That was the real confusion was, and I think, and I said this to my boss, I said, I think what happened was he saw the hip hop influence because after his sound check, all the scratch guys rolled in and it was like wiki, wiki, wiki. And I think he kind of looked around and said, this is totally not my crowd. I'm going to drop a disco set of Francois K and other stuff, and they're going to look at me like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, who is this guy? Yeah.
Yeah. And
I would have dug that personally, but.
Well, I think that audience would have dug it too. I think he underestimated the crowd.
Yeah.
Because I think they would have really, and it was a surprise, so it wasn't announced. It was going to be like, here he is, Jelly Bean Benitez. And we knew they'd know. But, things happen at shows.
Mm-hmm. We have burnt 45 minutes on Boston John's Record Roundup.
Hey, what do you want to talk about?
Goodness.
We have 15 minutes to go.
We need a real short
anything anyone would like to discuss?
Brian, something I noticed recently, I think it was over the weekend here, you had the weekend off. I know you mentioned catching a nap, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I actually had a weekend off too, for the first time in quite a few weeks. So I did almost nothing but sleep, and it was amazing. So I think, maybe that could be a topic too, or just I don't know, some sort of life advice for DJs. Take advantage of your time off too. Count it as a blessing at times, even though that means you're not getting you're not getting an envelope in your hand.
I think that my post where I said weekend off nap time were two completely different thoughts combined into one sentence.
Oh,
so I'm not working the club this weekend, but I'm exhausted from working on cars all week, so I'm going to sleep is what I was trying to say. Let me tell you how bad it's been, how tired I've been. I've been trying to keep up with my brother, who is more screwed up than I am, but he's just an animal. He's 100 pounds soaking wet. He's got one lung, and he's just been swinging a hammer for 2 weeks nonstop. He's doing a wonderful job with what he's doing. But, okay, so my kids came over, right, on Sunday. And I had my truck pulled into the driveway. And my son-in-law, he likes to back his truck in, but he never parks me in. Like, he never parks me in. It doesn't happen. And my mother lives way out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm talking nothing. There's not a light in the sky. It's pitch black unless you have some kind of artificial light, which there's none out there. There's not even city lights to reflect off of clouds out there. It's that remote. It's way out in the middle of nowhere. So I get in my truck, I fire it up, I put it in reverse, and boom, I hit his truck. I tap it. I'm just rolling, right? And I was really embarrassed that I did it, and I told him I did it, and he thought it was really funny and all that. So I came home, and Blanca, to my surprise, was still up at 3 o'clock in the morning doing whatever Blanca does at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Netflix?
Yeah, something. So
how to kill Brian and get away with it.
So she says, how was your night? And I tell her, oh, well, I did this and I did this. And then I was leaving and I backed into Eris and she's like, oh my God, is he okay? I'm like, no, his truck, not him. Because the language barrier thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. However I said it, it sounded like I ran my kid over, which I did not do.
Yeah.
I hit his truck. But yeah, I haven't been communicating well. I've been very tired. I'm just so excited to have a day off. And it sounds terrible, but we've just been doing this grunt work crap. Like stuff that's not fun. It's the preparation to do the fun stuff for 2 weeks solid. So
yeah, paint job great after you sand the vehicle.
I'm not even doing that. Well,
no, I'm just saying it's that kind of thing. Like, oh, I can't wait till this is painted. Okay, well, in the meantime, let's sand it. What do you mean? Well, you got to sand all this paint off.
Well, you got to fill it, and you got to,
But then when it's done, it looks great.
Yeah, and that was the easy part. The painting was the easy part, and it's the prep that sucks.
It's the prep.
We're doing all prep now. The assembly process is going to be fun, and you're going to see results. It's just all the prep. So he's working on the engine compartment. I'm working on the interior. I'm trying to do sound deadening. It's an absolute nightmare on that floor because not only is it a patchwork floor, which is fine function wise, but sucks when you're trying to do sound deadening. And then he's working on the front clip area. He's got the fenders off. I don't know if you ever saw Mad Max Fury Road, where Mad Max flips the car like several times at the beginning. And then 5 minutes later, you see that the War Boys have taken a hammer and dolly and just molded it back into a car that looks fine, but with no paint on it. That's what he's doing to his front end. It's crunched, and he's like pulling a Mad Max Fury Road on the front end of his car.
That's quite a bit, paint.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. I will say this though, in response to you, George and Matt, it is so cool to have a distraction, to do something else that's completely unrelated to DJing, and then go back to DJing.
Yeah.
You get a fresh perspective.
You need that. Everyone needs that, I think. Yeah.
What are you doing, Eric, when you're not doing DJ stuff to think about that you enjoy?
Well, I work on computers, for one, as kind of a side gig. So that gets my mind off. Although when I see a computer, I think DJ, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
But I'm not working on software. I'm not working on virtual DJ. I'm actually working with components inside the computer, hard drive, memory. So and when I'm not doing that, I'm taking a nap. But, last night we didn't get off here till 5:30. The sun was coming up. I went to bed at 5:30 this morning. Thank you, John.
Hey, you're welcome. It's the time difference between New Hampshire and Boston. Oh, wait a second, we're in the same time zone. Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to relax. To get away from the DJ thing. But, everybody needs a hobby. Your hobby, Brian, is cars.
It's one thing I'd like to do. I do a lot of house stuff too. The car thing is something I've been doing since my late father passed. But before that, I was doing other things. I enjoy art, travel, just stuff like that too. This is just something else. I'm always trying new things, and I like learning about things, and I have a lot of interests. I really do. The one thing I'm not interested in is sports. And although I really like music and I really like movies, I'm not interested in theater. But most everything else that I'm pretty interested in.
I've been sharing with my brother who lives out near you on the Mustangs. Yeah. And he's getting a kick out of it. He's like, you send me more. He wants to see right. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm sure he's going to post them. I'll send them to you,
He's going to show up with a hammer. Can I help?
Yeah. Well, he works for a Ford dealer, so he really loves what they're doing,
I'm going to try to get a video up soon on that. That literally has not even been time to shoot a video, barely time to take a picture, unless I'm sitting down catching my breath and I happen to just snap one. But I'm going to try to get some video for all 7 of you who care. And thank you, all 7 of you who care.
Tell us in the comments if you want to see more about Mustangs on DJ TV.
Probably not.
Yeah, there's always someone. Yeah, we all like
just
cars.
Something, and I know what are you going to talk about? You talk about what you're doing, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to bore anybody with this stuff.
But if you need to keep up on work things, I'd love to recommend one of our sponsors, DJ Event Planner. Simply go to djeventplanner.com. You'll see all of our sponsors down here in the details. But when you're not having fun, when you're not napping, relaxing, or DJing, you got to keep things organized. DJ Event Planner is there for you.
In fact, you will have more time to enjoy yourself if you have some help getting organized. You will have more time to have fun.
Exactly. It's a better quality of life.
Because it is the event planner, right? It is the DJ event planner.
Yeah, for you.
Yes.
Oh, we plan the events.
We plan the events.
Yeah. Quick question for him. How many of you guys actually fall asleep listening to music? Does anyone?
Enough, I don't. I fall asleep listening to TV.
I think it's a DJ thing. We don't listen to music when we're going to bed.
I used to, and then I found ASMR.
Oh.
And ASMR replaced going to bed to music and talk radio.
Yeah.
And ASMR was like, okay, this works. Boom. I set the phone timer to 20 minutes, and under alarm, I put stop playing, go to YouTube, find a good ASMR video, and out I go.
Like someone eating potato chips with a microphone really close or something like that kind of.
Sort of.
I can't. That stuff drives me nuts.
A lot of people can't deal with it, but it's like lo-fi. Do you guys know what lo-fi is?
Yeah, don't like.
Oh yeah.
I did a thing last Thursday for a grand opening of a place called Parlay Cafe. They have in the front what looks like a typical coffee cafe area, like some pastries, sandwiches, all different coffee drinks. But then in the back, you can join and you can rent like a desk with a laptop. You get internet, you get a phone service, you can get a conference room, you can get a private office. It'd be like if you wanted to go meet a client, didn't have an actual office, but said, hey, come meet me at this place. They go in, they go through this beautiful glass door setup. You go into your little office. It's a rented space that you can use on a daily basis to get out of your house.
And you can't smoke there.
No, you can't.
So it's useless.
You can't smoke anywhere, but in your
smoke
basement.
here.
Well, not everyone can be there, Brian. Again, let's put the flag and the Mustang down just for a heartbeat.
But you get to pop your selfies and go hashtag workflow and all of that.
So they're like, they wanted me to do their grand opening. I'm like, great. I show up, I set up, and I immediately go into, which we've talked about, this series of records that I bought from iTunes, which is called Vintage Cafe. And it's like Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, but done by a 3-piece jazz trio with a female singer. And they were like, what is this? One of them was Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. And they're like, we've never heard this stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's made to be played in this sort of vibe. Like, you know, like Scott Bradley and Modern Jukebox. It's that sort of thing, but it goes a little deeper. And they're like, wow, this is so perfect. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do as DJs. We go in and see where we're playing, and here you go. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, you know, whatever. So I played some lo-fi there, which I would never normally play at a gig. And they were like, oh, this is perfect. Like, dude, we love this vibe. I'm like, this is the things that kids listen to study, you know, and it's not a DJ thing, John, but a lot of kids listen to that kind of lo-fi down tempo in the background. I mean, I love 07. I could definitely, fall asleep listening to some 07, you know?
Now, Blanca will not tolerate the TV on when she's sleeping or trying.
No, my wife won't either.
But for me, even in a hotel room, like we're
exactly. Trips. Next week, TV's on every night.
Yeah.
Go to bed, turn the TV on.
Bring the volume down so low until it's off. I close my eyes and I try very hard to hear what's happening. Yeah. And that puts me to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and
talk radio.
The only time I listen to music when I'm sleeping is if I happen to be rooming with someone with a snoring problem. And I'll put headphones on, not so loud that I can't sleep, but loud enough to drown out the snoring.
You don't listen to Chill or anything?
Not try to sleep.
The Chill channel?
No.
That's another good one.
That's a driving thing for me. I do most of my music listening in the car.
It's funny, in the car, I tend to go with either talk radio or podcasts.
I did, and then I realized that I was listening to way too much of that, so I knocked it off, and that's when I'm doing most of my music research too. Whether it's on a top 40 station or I'm digging for, the old disco track that I didn't know, or hear the sample that I didn't know what it was from. That's my time for that. And that's, I'm on the road a lot. Just going to visit mom is like, a 40-minute drive. So
I'll have Shazam open, and I'll have like Sirius open, and I'll kind of bounce between, meaning if I get a channel on Sirius that's, wow, I'm not familiar with this, I'll immediately go and put, auto Shazam on for a little while. Then later that day, come back to it and try to look it up like, oh, that was a great track. I've never heard. I found so many songs a few years ago where I was like, never heard of Tuxedo. And I ended up buying like 5 songs by this group. And it was like high teens to low 120, kind of very 80s disco meets new wave meets funk, like really good vibe stuff. But yeah, if I'm listening to music now, I tend to pull Shazam into the mix just so I don't make a mistake and miss something.
Yeah. Before we wrap the show, we have Scrappa here visiting from Melbourne, Australia. He's popping in.
Good day, mate.
Saying
hi, guys.
Hello. Sorry, we were really involved in some heavy, deep conversation there for a minute. I couldn't get Jay to shut up. I'm sorry.
That's normal. No, good to get in on the end of it.
At the very end of it. We didn't really have a topic. We just talked about stuff.
Yep. So I noticed you were talking about playing music while you sleep. Someone asked the question. I do that quite a lot, and I think that takes me back to when I was a kid. The only time I got to listen to the radio was with bedtime when I was going to bed. So I just naturally do it now.
I grew up doing that too.
Yeah, but I did too.
Yeah, like rock music or whatever was on.
And now when I'm driving, I'm pumping music all the time. So at a certain time of the day, I'll listen to the radio. If it's not that, I'm either listening to Mixcloud or one of my own mixes on a USB stick. So,
when I was a kid, I remember on Sunday nights, I would go to bed because I had to go to bed. Go to school in the morning. I would listen to Dr. Demento really low so nobody knew I was listening to it.
I think DCN played him for a while.
But it was really interesting. And then after Dr. Demento was the King Biscuit Flower Hour. I got to check that out. And then after the King Biscuit Flower Hour, what's the local station going to follow this stuff up with? It's going to be an interesting set because they've had, the last several hours off for syndication stuff. So I'd have to listen to what the DJ was going to play after that. And it was usually something pretty cool.
I had very little sleep as a kid.
It was like Boss Gag Slowdown or something that you didn't normally hear, So you got no sleep.
When I was a kid, Sunday night was the night the local radio station would play the top 50.
Yeah.
From top to bottom or bottom to top.
Sure.
They'd start off at the bottom and work all their way up to number one. And so that was
a morning thing, Sunday morning thing, I think.
Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
And that was like syndicated all over, and Sunday mornings tended to be the Casey Kasem top 40 of the week or whatever.
Yeah.
Was,
American top 40.
Yeah. Letters from like Casey wrote a letter. Her boyfriend has been at war for 6 years.
It's a long distance dedication.
Lionel Richie song.
Dedication.
Like, wait, what?
You guys have heard the Casey Kasem tirades, haven't you?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. Go listen.
The other thing became Sunday nights in Boston for a long time was Emerson College.
Yeah, ERS had Nasty Habits, rock and roll.
Had Nasty Habits. Then that moved to like Saturdays. But Mike Jones with Nasty Habits, and he would get like interview Metallica before Metallica was Metallica kind of thing. And he was breaking tracks because you didn't have the internet back then in the early 80s.
Right.
He was literally like, here's a new band they just formed 10 minutes ago called Megadeth. Here, you guys might like this. This is Slayer. And like, you literally would walk away. You couldn't go to sleep because you're like,
it's like this guy Dave keeps bitching about, this Metallica band. What's up with him? Why is he so mad?
It sounds like
I wonder why.
Like a Richard Blade kind of thing.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. But it was one of those, And
Hey guys,
I have to say hi to you
missed you the
before
last couple weeks.
I have to say hi to you before we wrap the show.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Matt.
Time. We're gonna kill it.
Yeah, it was a busy couple of weeks. We had Midwest DJs Live, which I missed you on that one, but I saw you got to meet up with a bunch of people over at Safe House.
Well, tell us all about it after I end the recording.
Well,
Sure.
And for anyone that wants to see us, always you can come to djntv.com/chill room and visit us. Just chill, CHILL, and come and hang out and talk with us.
We'd love you to do it.
Ryan will bring it home.
We'll see you next